Here we have the Wurkkos FC11C. It's available in 5000K and 4000K models, which I'll be comparing in this video. And it's interesting because it has several other features that are often found in more expensive flashlights. Out of the box, you get some instructions, a USB-C charge cord, a little bag with a lanyard along with a couple of O-rings, and an 18650 size battery, which I'll show you in a minute. The bodies are 6061 aluminum alloy with an IPX8 waterproof rating to 2 meters. Here's a look at the Nichia 519A LEDs, which are highly regarded for their high CRI or color rendering index rating. It also has a magnetic tail cap, there's the belt clip, and a USB Type-C charge port. You may have also noticed the orange peel reflector that surrounds the LED. The side switch has a battery indicator light which turns green for 5 seconds if the charge is above 30% and it turns red if it needs charging. The user interface is pretty standard, one click for on and off, click and hold to cycle through low, medium, and high, and double click for turbo mode. 3 clicks gives you strobe mode, and pressing and holding for about a second gives you a 1 lumen moonlight mode. And you can lock out by clicking 4 times, and then the light flashes twice to indicate lockout mode, and then you can deactivate the lockout mode by pressing 4 times again. You can also switch to smooth ramping by holding the switch down for about 5 seconds from off. The light will flash twice to let you know you've toggled from stepped modes to smooth ramping, and then to switch back to stepped modes, just hold the switch down for 5 seconds from off again. Now I'll unscrew the tail cap and extension tube to show the included 18650 lithium-ion battery. It's rated at 3000 milliamp hours. And we'll go ahead and look at the connection springs while we're at it. The FC11C has a buck driver that regulates the output to give longer run times with less heat. And that's another feature usually found on high-end flashlights, which is pretty nice. You can also get a short extension tube from Wurkkos that allows you to use an 18350 size battery, thus making the flashlight even smaller. Let's go ahead and get into the beam shots, and we'll start behind this warehouse. This is the 5000K model on high mode at about 600 lumens. And just know that these beam shots look a lot more impressive in person. There's a lot more spill, and the profile is very soft with a good mix of flood and throw. Here's turbo mode, which the specs claim as 1200 lumens with a maximum throw of 155 meters. Even medium mode does pretty well at 250 lumens. There's high mode again, and turbo mode. Now we'll take a look at the 4000 Kelvin model, and we'll start on high mode. And I'll show these lights side by side a little later and also compare them to a 6500K flashlight. As far as run times go, I'll just talk a little bit about my visual observations. The specifications say that the turbo mode steps down after 90 seconds to keep it from overheating, and then it can be reactivated anytime by double clicking. In my experience with turbo mode, there was a small drop after 90 seconds, but the first noticeable step down was at about the 5-minute mark, where it seemed to be close to high mode levels. And then mine didn't really fluctuate noticeably again for another 20 minutes, when it dropped a little, but then it started creeping back up to high mode levels during the rest of the hour that I was recording. When starting on high mode, mine did not visually fluctuate for the entire hour that I tested it. And I was satisfied with that, and I'm sure it could have gone much longer as the specs give a runtime of 2.7 hours on high. And I will add that while these flashlights were hot after these hour-long tests, they weren't super hot, and I didn't have to worry about getting burned. Here's a look at a 6500K flashlight just for the sake of comparison. This happens to be my AceBeam L35 2.0 on one of the low to medium settings. And getting back to the Wurkkos FC11C, we'll take it out to this trail in the woods starting on turbo mode. And again, I have to point out that these flashlights easily shine to where the road curves out of sight, even though it doesn't translate well on camera. I will say, however, that there doesn't seem to be a huge visible difference between the turbo mode and the high mode, which is fine by me because I'm going to be using the high or medium modes more often anyway. As we switch to the 4000K model, I will say that I like the warmer tint a little bit more than I thought I would, but I still prefer the 5000K because it really seems to hit the sweet spot in terms of color. At first glance, it appears that the 4000K is a little bit dimmer, or maybe it doesn't throw as far, but they're actually quite similar in terms of throw. It's just that the 5000K seems more vivid and natural to my eye. We're in high mode now as I toggle between the 5000K and 4000K, and in a minute we'll add a 6500K flashlight into the mix and look at them all side by side. Okay, here we have the 4000, 5000, and 6500K lights together. And again, I'm using the AceBeam L35 2.0 on one of the low modes for this comparison. I think this really shows what high CRI emitters are all about and how blue the 6500K lights make everything look. Next, we'll see how they look in this open grassy field. There's a white post in the center of the frame that's 50 meters out. And we'll start in turbo mode as we switch between the color temperatures. The light from each of these basically covers the entire field in front of us, but I would say that the effective range of 155 meters in turbo mode would be pretty accurate depending on atmospheric conditions. Here's high mode, and again there doesn't appear to be a huge drop in brightness, even though technically we're cutting the lumen output in half according to the specs. Turbo mode is listed at 1200 lumens and high mode is listed right at 600 lumens. The specs also list high mode as having a distance of 112 meters, which also seems pretty accurate. Here is medium mode, which comfortably covers the yard area, and the specs say that it's 250 lumens with 73 meters of throw, which I also found to be accurate. Again, here are three color temperatures side by side, and this time the 6500K light is from a Sofern SC13 and its SST40 emitter. For the last test, we'll go out to the parking lot of this church renovation, and I'll just let the video and subtitles take it from here as I give some final thoughts. The FC11C might not have the novelty of a supercharged thrower or a wall of light flutter that makes for sensational videos, but the more that I use it, the more I find myself asking, what do I really need in a flashlight, especially considering the price point? It's lightweight and small with a great usable and practical beam profile. It's also nice to be able to stand the flashlight on the tail cap, and having the magnetic tail cap makes it a handy tool as well. I like that it uses the 18650 size battery and I can carry it in my shirt pocket. It might be nice if it had a switch on the tail cap. Of course that would sacrifice the magnetic abilities, but I think I'd prefer a tail switch as long as it kept the ability to stand upright. But overall, I'm really enjoying using this flashlight, and it's inspired me to look into more lights with high CRI emitters.